In the year 1963, Israel was getting very close to building a nuclear bomb. However, this matter was deeply troubling American President John F. Kennedy. He did not want Israel to manufacture a nuclear bomb and create a massive stir in the Arab world, because if that happened, the Arabs would seek help from America's enemy, Russia. Kennedy tried every possible way to stop Israel, but what happened next was beyond anyone's imagination. Whether it was America, the UK, or Russia, powerful nations have played with such dangers to acquire nuclear weapons that it is hard to comprehend. Sometimes through secret intelligence operations, sometimes using honey traps, and in this game, even the closest ally nations openly ditched each other. Today, we will learn the story of those 10 countries that are currently the masters of this terrifying power. Welcome once again to Ancientgraphy videos. Viewers, there are a total of 195 countries in the world, and almost all of them possess advanced militaries and high-tech weapons to defend themselves. But out of 195, there are only 10 countries that possess the world's most dangerous, most destructive weapon, the nuclear bomb. Think about it, in today's world, where every country is in a race to surpass one another, only 5% of nations have succeeded in making this weapon. Some of them helped each other, but most did this work covertly, heavily utilizing top-tier espionage, deadly rivalries, and betrayal. The story of how America and the other 9 countries acquired nuclear power is just as interesting as America's Manhattan Project. First, let's start with America. It is a well-known fact that America was the very first country to acquire atomic weapons. But did you know that this discovery was actually first accomplished by Hitler's scientists? Yes, in 1938, German scientists were the first to discover nuclear fission, the method of breaking atoms to release a massive amount of energy through a chain reaction. At that time, the scientific community was quite small, and the echoes of this explosive discovery by German scientists reached Albert Einstein in America. He immediately warned the American president that Hitler could use this new discovery to make a bomb capable of destroying humanity. Following this letter, America launched a highly secret project during World War II, which is famously known today as the Manhattan Project. Scientists from America, the UK, and Canada were included in it, and an immense amount of money was spent so that Hitler wouldn't win the race. By 1945, Germany surrendered, and Hitler was finished. Meanwhile, news arrived that America's first nuclear Trinity test in New Mexico was successful. Thus, America secured the top spot in acquiring humanity's most powerful weapon. Without any delay, the very next month, America dropped Fat Man and Little Boy on Japan, forcing Japan to surrender as well. This ended the war, but now everyone else joined the race to acquire this new nuclear weapon. Yet, America did not want this weapon to fall into anyone else's hands. Now we come to the story of the Soviet Union, i.e., Russia. Surprisingly, during World War II, America's own ally, who had helped remove Hitler from the path, had a major issue with America's first nuclear test, and that was none other than the Soviet Union. Yes, the Soviet Union was America's ally in World War II, but in 1941, American and British scientists stopped publishing nuclear research papers. This made the Soviets feel that the formula was intentionally being hidden from them. The Soviet Union quietly planted its spies inside America's Manhattan Project and began gathering all the information. While the Soviets thought they were playing a game with America, the Americans were no less. They turned the Soviet agents into double agents and began feeding them false information. After 1945, when the Soviet Union suspected the double agents, they did not completely trust the stolen American designs and continued their own research. As a result, much earlier than America expected, the Soviets successfully completed the RDS-1 test in Kazakhstan in 1949. Now, America's monopoly on this technology was over, and this marked the beginning of the Cold War between the two. The third country to acquire nuclear weapons was the United Kingdom, but despite being a close ally, it ended up being deceived by America. Actually, even before America, the UK had started research on nuclear weapons in 1940 under a project named Tube Alloys. In this work, they were helped by German scientists who had fled Germany. However, due to a shortage of resources during World War II, the UK handed all its research over to its close ally America's Manhattan Project. This wasn't done for free. They had an agreement called the Quebec Agreement. Under this agreement, both countries were supposed to share this technology with each other. But once America successfully built the first nuclear weapon, its attitude completely changed. They broke the Quebec Agreement with the UK and refused to share information. In other words, a flat-out betrayal. This betrayal forced Britain to restart its own nuclear program, and since they had already done a lot of work and controlled most of the world's uranium, they completed the job very quickly. In 1952, the UK successfully completed its first nuclear test near Australia on the Montebello Islands, which was named Operation Hurricane. Meanwhile, when America saw that Russia and the UK had also acquired atomic bombs, they began working on something thousands of times more dangerous than a standard atomic bomb, the hydrogen bomb. Yes, in a standard atomic bomb, energy is created by breaking atoms, which is called fission, whereas, in a hydrogen bomb, energy is generated using the process of fusion by fusing atoms together. It is the exact same process that occurs inside the sun. In 1952, America tested this new bomb. The power of this new bomb was 450 times greater than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Consequently, Russia in 1955 and the UK in 1957 also detonated their own hydrogen bombs to show the world that they were second to none. Now we come to France, which is the fourth country to get nuclear weapons. Some French scientists had worked on the Manhattan Project, but after World War II, their intention was not to build a bomb but to use nuclear energy solely for generating electricity. After that, something happened that completely changed France's mind. The Suez Canal, which is Egypt's biggest asset, was ruled by France and Britain before 1956. But Egyptian leader Gamal Abdel Nasser raised his voice, shut down the Suez Canal, and took control of it. Seeing this, France and Britain formed a secret plan with Israel and attacked Egypt. However, during that era, both America and Russia heavily supported Arab countries, and the reason was the oil coming from there. Russia threatened France and Britain that if they did not back down, it would use the atomic bomb, while America began putting economic pressure on France. Forced by circumstances, France had to retreat, and this humiliation drove them to build their own independent nuclear bomb. They gathered uranium from their colonies like Niger, Gabon, and Madagascar, working day and night. In 1960, France conducted its first nuclear test in the Sahara Desert, and by 1968, France had also developed the hydrogen bomb. The fifth country was China. During the Korean War in 1950, a time came when the Chinese military forced American soldiers to retreat. After that, America could not tolerate it and threatened China with nuclear weapons. Chairman Mao understood that as long as they didn't have nuclear weapons, the world would keep suppressing them. Initially, the Soviet Union was a staunch friend of China and helped China build the nuclear bomb. But later, a rift developed between the two. At that time, when the policies of Russia's new leader, Khrushchev, began softening toward America, China's Chairman Mao stated, "You are no longer true communists." In response, Russia recalled all its scientists, leaving China's nuclear dream incomplete. However, China took this as a challenge and found uranium within its own mountains. In 1964, China conducted its first nuclear test and named it 596. This name was nothing short of a slap in the face to Russia because 59-foot represents the year 1959, and 6 represents the month of June, meaning it was in June 1959 that Russia had abandoned China on this journey. The sixth country is Israel, and its story is highly intriguing. Israel is the only country that has neither admitted nor denied it to this day, but it is widely understood that Israel possesses nuclear weapons. Perhaps this matter would have remained buried to this day if it weren't for this man, Mordecai Vanunu. In 1986, he was a technician at Israel's nuclear facility, and he blew the whistle in front of British newspapers. He leaked all the photos and secret documents. In truth, Israel, which had already worked on a nuclear mission with France, wanted to build its own nuclear bomb due to threats from the Arabs. However, American President Kennedy was strictly against this. Ultimately, when Kennedy was assassinated, the path became completely clear, and 4 years later, in 1967, Israel completed its program with utmost secrecy. In 1986, when Vanunu blew the whistle, a honey trap operation was planned through Mossad, and he was brought back to Israel. Despite serving an 18-year sentence, this man lives under strict restrictions to this day. The seventh country was India, whose scientists had started research on nuclear energy even before partition. Initially, India's intention was only to generate electricity, but the 1962 Sino-Indian War changed everything. The defeat suffered in the Himalayan mountains forced India to think about an atomic bomb. Then, when China conducted its first nuclear test in 1964, it became a do-or-die situation for India. India then used the pretext of merely generating electricity to acquire reactors from Canada and America, but behind the scenes, a completely different work was going on. In 1974, an explosion suddenly occurred in the desert of Rajasthan. This was none other than the blast of Project Smiling Buddha. India claimed it wasn't a bomb but a peaceful nuclear explosion. However, America and Canada were deeply upset because India had used their supplied technology to build a bomb. As a result, harsh sanctions were imposed on India, and India flatly refused to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. This is the treaty where countries agree on rules to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. But the story didn't end there. They had tested the bomb in 1974, but it took another 20 years to turn it into a deployable weapon, and this explosion had left another country across the border highly restless, Pakistan. Now comes the turn of South Africa, whose story is the most unique. Until 1970, they had no interest in nuclear weapons, but then circumstances changed. South Africa had a strict law of apartheid, meaning separate laws for white people and separate for blacks. Black people even had to get an out pass just to travel within their own country. Because of this law, the entire world boycotted them. On top of that, the Soviet Union increased its influence in Namibia and Angola. South Africa feared that the Russians might reach them next and seize control by aligning with their black population. In this difficult hour, there was one country that stood by South Africa, Israel. Israel shared weapons, fighter jets, and nuclear research with them, and in return, demanded uranium. Then in 1979, a famous incident occurred known as the Vela Incident. American satellites recorded two massive flashes in the ocean near South Africa. It is believed that this was a joint nuclear test by Israel and South Africa. According to experts, Israel utilized South Africa's land and gave them their research in return. However, in 1990, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, South Africa became the first country to voluntarily dismantle its own nuclear weapons. Next is Pakistan, which ranks 9th in acquiring nuclear weapons. It began in 1971 when, after a war with India, West Pakistan separated and Bangladesh was formed. In 1974, India's Smiling Buddha test intensified this pursuit. Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan, a Pakistani scientist, gathered classified information on enriching uranium while working at a nuclear facility in Holland, and he came to Pakistan with those blueprints. Furthermore, China also provided immense help to Pakistan because China wanted to build a strong ally against India. Initially, America did not try hard to stop Pakistan either because, for one, they underestimated Pakistan's capabilities, and secondly, Pakistan was a key ally for America in the war against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. In 1998, when India conducted 5 nuclear tests, just a few weeks later, Pakistan carried out its own underground tests in the Rasko Hills. But the story didn't end there. Pakistan was accused of supplying nuclear technology to other countries, such as Iran, Libya, and North Korea. When the situation worsened and the Pakistani government faced direct accusations, Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan took all the blame upon himself during a television program in 2004. He confessed that he was the one who sold this technology to North Korea, Iran, and Libya, and following this, he was kept under house arrest for the next several years. But the question arises, why did Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan give this technology to North Korea, located thousands of miles away? To find the answer, we turn to the final and 10th country in the world to build a nuclear bomb, North Korea. North Korea's founder, Kim Il-sung, believed that nuclear weapons were vital to deter old enemies like South Korea and America. In 1950, the Soviet Union helped them significantly with using nuclear energy for electricity, but later, North Korea began demanding assistance to manufacture weapons from both the Soviet Union and China, both of whom refused to support them. North Korea covertly built its own separate program but achieved no success. In 1990, they also signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, yet their attempts to covertly manufacture weapons continued. In this final attempt, Pakistan also helped them significantly. Some experts believe that while Pakistan had acquired the nuclear capability, it lacked the missiles to target India's far-off cities. On the other hand, North Korea possessed excellent missiles but lacked nuclear tech. It is said that they gave Pakistan the designs for their Nodong missiles, and in return, Dr. A.Q. Khan provided them with the blueprints for centrifuges to enrich uranium. In October 2006, North Korea conducted its first test, which was so small that people began saying it might have malfunctioned. However, in 2009, when Kim Il-sung fell ill, they detonated a second and far more powerful explosion to display their might. This was so intense that a magnitude 5 earthquake was recorded on the Richter scale. Thus, North Korea became the latest and final country to create nukes. But was this the last horse in the race? Perhaps not. Looking at the current circumstances, it appears the next in line will be Iran. However, Israel, which is the sole nuclear power in the Middle East, is putting pressure on Iran from all sides. And if Iran succeeds in this, Saudi Arabia won't lag behind either, as Mohammed bin Salman has stated multiple times that if Iran builds a nuclear bomb, Saudi Arabia will follow suit. Hopefully, you will thoroughly like and share this video by World-Ancientgraphy as well. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you in the next spectacular video.